Welcome to Showdown. I'm Mark Kaysen, and it is Tuesday. I'm sorry, Wednesday. I lost the day. Wednesday, September the 4th. I was on assignment yesterday. Isn't that right, Joe? Okay. I was just checking. I don't want to tell people something that's not true. So, yes, I'm here. It is Wednesday the 4th, and you know, I'm sort of upbeat, but I do have to say something that's really a shame, and that is that here we are again. We've got another day when America has lost its mind, only for this reason. Everybody on the right wants more guns, more guns. We need more guns. Get more guns. And 4 people are dead in Georgia, 9 injured. And it's the old story. It's what I always say. Not until the right person is murdered in one of these will the people on the right say enough. Because as far as they're concerned, these are all throwaway people. These are people who I guess we can do without. But there's someone in the lives of the right, some person, some group that they can't live without, that will truly move them and end this entire mess. Because the truth is, without that, this will go on forever. Little children, women, certainly people who have done nothing wrong, people who are completely innocents, people who should never have been harmed for any reason except that the United States wants guns. More guns and more guns. Because we just don't know how to stop. Like I say, there's a way to stop. There's something that will move these people. I just don't know what it is. I haven't the slightest guess what it is. It hasn't been children. It hasn't been women teachers. It hasn't been popular teachers. It hasn't been anything. Because the more this happens, the more they want their guns. And their favorite thing is that the biggest danger to one of these shooters is a good man with a gun. But see, it's never true. Never true at all. Because every single time people die for no reason at all, except for the fact that this country is addicted to its guns. Now, when it comes to addictions, I'm addicted. See? Let me show you what I'm addicted to. See this? I'm addicted. That's one. There's another one. I'm addicted to phones. I'm addicted to computers. I love phones and computers. I love technology. But let me tell you something. In my entire life, I've never touched a gun. Never. Okay. I'll admit, when I was about 5 or 6 years old, I did have a cap gun. I did. I didn't know any better. But I'll say this. I've never touched a real gun. I've never gone near one. And I've had people who have said, come on, Kaysen, Let's go to the range. Let us show you how cool this is. I would truly be willing, for example, to get a bow and arrow and go out and shoot it somewhere safe, or whatever you do with a bow and arrow. I mean, I don't even know what to do with things like that. But, I think about Robin Hood. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. That'd be fun. One time. Obviously, I'm not going to be competing for archery in Nottingham. But no, look, I can make a joke, but this isn't a joke. It's just not. The country is so engulfed in this sickness. We just don't even know what to do about it. Now, of course, Donald, give me a break. Give me a break. Donald Trump. There's no sense in even asking him anything. There's no sense in even listening to anything, although we'll hear him in 6 days. You know that. He'll be out here in 6 days, and we'll listen to his lunacy. But no, there's no reason to hear what he has to say as a presidential candidate, because he's not going to be president of anything unless it's the Prisoners Association. This guy has nothing to say on any serious subject. And really, Kamala has said the man is not a serious person. And that's true. I mean, unless you're studying the history of Hannibal Lecter. But as far as a policy issue, guns, no. No, you can forget that story. This guy has no concept either of the danger of guns, or who's shooting the guns, or how the people are getting killed with guns. And this is a guy who got nicked on the ear. Honestly, I didn't want anything to happen to him. I really don't. I don't. Because if anything happens to him, you know that the crazy people he's associated with will see him as some kind of a great hero martyr. We don't want it. We don't want it. All we want is Donald to go where he belongs, and I always say, deposited on the ash heap of history where we left Joe McCarthy 70 years ago, 1954. So this is horrible, but we have no way of addressing it. Could we address it with Kamala Harris? Honestly, it would be difficult for her. I mean, she would take the right position, but where's she going to get in any of this? Nowhere. Because, Greg, nice to see you here, but I'm going to say it again. Unless somebody dies that you care about, you'll go on with this. Greg writes, I believe we need an overhaul of the gun regulations in the legal system. A 15-year-old does not need to carry an AR-15 or a 9mm with a 50-round clip, yet they let it happen right in the open. Because the right wing, Greg, won't quit. And it's not just an AR whatever. It's everything. All these guns have to go. Every single one has to go. Yeah, I hear you, Michael. I believe he might not have been hit, but that's not the point. Because I think you know my point. That unless somebody gets killed, and thank you, Greg agrees. I'm glad to hear that. Unless somebody gets killed that these people care about, they'll never stop, because all they want is a gun. And look, I don't know Whether Donald was hit by a bullet or shrapnel or who knows. Maybe somebody scratched him with their fingernail. I don't know. But I'm going to say this. That's not the point. It's not the point at all. The point is this country is just engulfed in guns everywhere. And if we don't stop it, then it's just going to keep killing innocent people. People who have done nothing wrong and deserve none of this. Yeah, Michael, it's like I say, it's got to be somebody they care about. Maybe it's just individually. I guess that's what it is. But, if it were the right situation, I think that you'd finally see some outrage. I don't know who it is. I don't want it to be anybody. Just get rid of these weapons. And I'm not just saying AR-15s or AK-47. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a pistol. No one needs it. People don't save themselves with these guns anyway. Greg says we don't need people to carry in public, like going to the store. Yeah, but Greg, they want it. I don't know what for, but they want those guns. They want those weapons. And, they believe that there's a Second Amendment that guarantees them the right to a weapon. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. What the heck does that have to do with anybody having a gun? Comma. Then the people's right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, but only based on that well-regulated militia. And I will tell you, there's evidence of this throughout our history for hundreds of years. And that is the idea that the people means we the people. This is guns for the protection of the state, not guns for you to go out and shoot everything that you can think of. And yet these people want to. They want to shoot everything. So I don't know, Michael. I don't know what will change anyone's minds. But I know this. There's something. There's something that will get these people like no one has ever been gotten before. I don't know what it is. I truly don't. And can Kamala do something about it? Well, probably not. There are just too many people who love their guns. Let's face it. You've got Tim Walz out here talking about, being a hunter, I guess. And you got so many of these people who do it. And I'm not sitting here saying, well, we have to protect the animals, although we probably ought to protect the animals, but that's another story. I'm just saying this. This country has more guns than we have people, and it keeps expanding, and there is no official protection for any of this in the Constitution of the United States, except for to say that, people like Scalia and Alito, okay, they all thought one thing, that there was a Second Amendment that guarantees people the right to bear arms, and it's just not true. There's a man named Saul Cornell, very famous historian, and a person who is at the top of this whole story of guns and the Second Amendment. And he's written books on the Second Amendment, and he's gone through the detailed history of this. There's no protection in any of the history. Now, I'll admit that our system says this, that if the Supreme Court tells you something, that's what it is. That's the truth. Whatever the Supreme Court says, That is the truth. In terms of the law, in terms of case law, that is the truth. But you can change it, and the Supreme Court can admit they made a mistake. Look, these people are admitting it all over the place. I'm not talking about even Roe v. Wade, although I do care about women's health care. Now, that's the truth. I mean, forget abortion. I care about women going to the doctor and being protected from whatever happens to them when they're trying to have children. And if you think that's a problem, for black women, it's 3 and 4 times worse, depending on where in the country you live. So all I know is that we don't want to do anything about it, and yet we must do something about it, but we don't want to as a country. We just don't want it. We don't want to fix it. We don't want to take guns away. I got friends who parrot that idiotic language about getting a gun from their cold, dead hands, all that nonsense. It's ridiculous. Shouldn't be a gun in the hands of anybody except the police. Now, you could say, well, Kaysen, don't you know about the police and what they've done and their history? And so, look, we need the police to be professional protectors of the American people. Now, I understand the job of the police is really not to go out and find somebody who's going to commit a crime. It's to deal with crime when it's committed. But I'm no police expert, and I'm only saying this. It would be great if we could put the guns in the hands of the police so that they could protect us, not kill us, not go after black people, protect us all. That should be the goal. Instead, we've got people out here who just want guns. Greg commented on people who are carrying their weapons in public. For what reason? I can't tell you why. I certainly, if I were in their position, I think I can have enough empathy about gun ownership, even though I think it's stupidity. But still, I think I could put myself in their position and understand what they think they're doing. But all they're really doing is putting everybody in this country in just incredible danger. It's way out of control. There's no reason for anybody, except the police, to have a gun. We shouldn't be hunting. We shouldn't be shooting at targets. It's not necessary. You want to play like Robin Hood? Go get yourself a bow and arrow, and you can play around with it at an archery range or something. Pretend you're in Nottingham and that the sheriff of Nottingham is getting ready to come to get you. I mean, you can fantasize all kinds of things, but you just don't need a gun. Get yourself a nice staff and pretend that you're going to go out with Friar Tuck and, whack each other on over a bridge, on the water, a river, a creek. I don't care. I mean, you could do whatever you want, but you just don't need to have a gun. I mean, I'm dead serious now. I really am. You don't need it. No one needs it. The country needs to get rid of it. It's that simple. Okay, so let's get off of that for a second. We're not going to solve anything. It wouldn't matter who we are or where we are, because no one wants to stop this. You can get on MSNBC and you can be watched on Joe Scarborough's show. You can be watched on Rachel Maddow's show. It goes nowhere. It goes nowhere. So end of conversation. I'm telling you, the only thing will do it is when the right person's shot, and I don't know who it is. I really don't. So we'll have to wait that to come. And unfortunately, we know that this will keep coming. It always does. And we always have the same conversation, and it always goes nowhere. Okay, here's what's coming up in 6 days. The debate. Now, before I even talk about the debate, I want to make a comment about the stock market. And you might say, why? And of course, the reason is because of that very sick person who claims to be a multi-billionaire and who is rapidly descending into the hell of market downturns. And certainly anybody who has heard me on the air over any of this period of time knows DJT. It keeps going down, and I have said that it would keep going down. The first low that it hit after it hit 80 was $23 a share. And then it bounced, and at that time I said, relax. It's a dead cat bounce. Now, you know that is a technical term on Wall Street. I'm not even kidding. It is. You know, they talk about on Wall Street how if you take a cat to the top of the Empire State Building and you drop it, well, it'll bounce. Not much. It'll bounce. Anyway, look, I got nothing against cats. I'm allergic to them, but that's another story. But listen, DJT dropped to 23, bounced back, dead cat bounce, and now $17 a share. Donald lost another 100 million plus today. He keeps losing everything. And I love it because I've said from the beginning that anything that Donald Trump touches, you know where it's going. It's going south. Just who he is. Nothing he does works. So here he is, and he's got, let's say, $1.8 billion left. I mean, it keeps dropping. Remember, it was at 23, it was, say, 2.5 billion. Then a little bounce. Now 1.8 billion. And I got to tell you, pretty soon it'll be 0 billions. And then he'll be dealing with, hundreds of millions, $114 million per dollar price decline. And then pretty soon after that, when it hits $1, if it does, I've said it probably would, then he's got 114 million left, and then he can start watching the pennies. Now, I've also said that there's always somebody who will buy something for $1. So, once it hits $1, there's no telling it. It might bounce a little bit, to $1.50, $1.25, something like that. But the bottom line is Donald is broke. Does he have any money in his pocket? Sure. He steals from banks. He calls up his banker and he says, I could use some money for a lunch next week. Can I have 1,000? Yeah, they'll give him money for that. They will, because it's worth it. Give him another few $1,000s and maybe he'll pay back millions. Maybe. Probably not. Anyway, he is a loser. And here's the thing about the loser. He's also possibly dealing with some dementia. How much? I don't know. I'm no psychologist. And I know Mary Trump is, and she says he's extremely ill. But we'll pass on that one for the moment. But here's a story. Here's a Donald Trump story. Oh, it's such a good one. I love it. Donald is participating in the development of the weave. You understand what the weave is, right? Incredible. Where does this stuff come from? Except for it comes from the mind of a very sick person, somebody who we should be giving help. We should be giving him aid and assistance. We should be getting him a place to live. We should be, and not the White House. We should be getting him a place where he can rest and relax for the rest of his life. Now, if he keeps fighting, that place is going to be what Jim Comey described as a trailer in Rikers. Comey said you get him a trailer, you attach it to Rikers, and then you put Donald in the trailer with his security team and let him just hang there. He can just sit it out for however long we want to keep him there. And then when we're through with that, we can move him on. I would say I don't want him to have a bad life from 78 or 80 till 95. He could do that. Although with his weight, might not be so simple. But look, here's the deal. The man owes $90 million plus interest because he raped a woman. He's a rapist. This man is a rapist. And he has paid whatever he paid to get that bond. But look, when he finally has to pay the bill, which he will, this is not like his other stuff. It's not like the piano tuner. It's not like, the piano tuner comes into Trump Tower and you go through this whole dance with him and he fixes all the pianos and then you tell him to stuff it. No money. Well, it's not going to be like that with E. Jean Carroll because she's going to get $90 million because she was raped. Donald Trump's a rapist. Now, he's also worse because he owes the state of New York just shy of $500 million. And that's for fraud, defrauding banks, defrauding insurance companies, and whatever else they think he did to harm the state of New York, and he did plenty. So, Donald is already, besides being a convicted felon, this guy is just wildly convicted. Now, remember this. He talked to an English professor. Boy, I'd love to know who that is. Really, I would love to have that guy right here on the air. That would be so much fun. The English professor who told Donald that Donald is a genius because he created the weave. And of course, the weave is what other people call a fire hose of falsehoods. I mean, the man lies about everything. And I always have to laugh at this because for years I have said that Donald's just lying about everything. And that if you ever hear him make a claim on any topic, it will always be a lie. Doesn't matter what it is. When he talks about a hurricane, he ends up drawing lines on a chart with some kind of Sharpie pen and claiming that everything's headed for Alabama when it's headed for the coast of Florida. I mean, that's how he is. Everything is a lie. Nothing is true. Talks about deals that he's made with the Chinese. There are no deals. Only in his imagination. Nothing. And then you got these people out here who say, oh, do I long for the policies of Donald Trump? And what policies are those? COVID? You know, he's suing Woodward, Bob Woodward from the Washington Post. He's suing Woodward because Woodward interviewed him and then took the tapes and released them. What did he think Woodward was going to do with those tapes? Honestly, what did he think? And listen to what he said on those tapes. He said that he didn't want to tell anybody the truth about COVID because he was afraid it would lead to some kind of a rampaging public of fear and desperation. All nonsense. Every word out of his mouth is a lie. Every last word. The English professor. There's no English professor. Don't you remember? What was his name? John Barron? That was the guy who used to call all the media people and tell them how brilliant Donald Trump was. It was Trump. The man was sick then. He's sick now. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being 78 years old. No, of course not. But he's ill. Wait till you see what happens to him on the stage with Kamala Harris. Wait until you see it. It's only 6 days away. Kamala Harris is going to destroy him in that debate. I hope that you've taken some time on a decent television station to watch the repeats of some of the hearings where Kamala asked questions of people who had come to testify. Those people didn't know what to do. I'd say the only person who was basically as accomplished as Kamala when it came to tearing these people apart, AOC. AOC's great, especially in those hearings. She knows what she's doing. She is outstanding. Great person. And so is Kamala. And every time Donald says Kamala, I don't know what he thinks he's accomplishing. But I know what people think about him. Everybody knows, as Kamala said, it's the same old story, boring as all get out. And, you know, when it came to this question of race, Kamala said, next question. Brilliant answer. I mean, Donald doesn't make it difficult for you to look good. It's so easy. But beyond that, and Kamala is both an accomplished prosecutor and an investigator and interviewer. She knows her business. She knows the law. You know how important the law is in the United States. It's so critical. And there's just no getting around it. Kamala knows the law, and Donald breaks the law. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're dealing with. Now, beyond that, it would be one thing if people could say, you know, Trump's good. That would be one thing. He's a smart guy. You ought to listen to him. You know, that. But nobody's saying that. Oh, we love his policies. We want the tax rate to go down for corporations. Really? I don't think so. I don't think that's what most people want. I think you've got an economic issue in front of us, and that issue is, what do you do about these interest rates that moved up to take care of inflation, and it worked? And then what are you going to do with them? Are you going to bring them back down? You're going to bring them down now? And how's that going to affect things? You know, we're in a market, stock market, that looks pretty difficult straight ahead. It's got some problems. I don't care if it's Amazon or Google or Apple or, you know, any of these big name companies, Microsoft. I mean, there are problems everywhere in the marketplace, potentially. It's not about the economy being in trouble. It's about stock prices being vulnerable. Now, if that's true and they do go down, I can also tell you that they will, as they always do, give way to panic, fear, and a great opportunity to buy companies that have value. Not DJT, which loses millions because it does nothing. But I'm talking about great companies that are dramatically overvalued right now. But in the future, when the markets are getting slammed around a little bit, you'll be able to step in and buy some of these shares for really cheap. It's just how the markets work. It's cyclical. And you would think Donald would understand that, but you're never going to hear that out of his mouth. He doesn't know what he's saying. And even when he does, even when he should know, he can't get it out because he's too busy talking about Hannibal Lecter and sharks and batteries. Greg asks, do you or have you watched Fox News or Newsmax type channels? I try to watch them all to understand all sides and opinions. The answer is no, I've never seen it, either one. Really, I haven't. Not even Fox. I mean, I wouldn't say I've never seen it. I've walked past TV screens where it was on. I've sort of taken a glance and walked by. I don't listen to the programming because I know what they're saying. There's nothing here to be surprised about. Talking about election equipment, that's such a lie that they already owe, what is it? I think it's $800 million on the way to $1 billion. And that's just on one case, because it got another one coming that could be as much as $2.5 billion unless they cave in and say, okay, we'll make it another 800 million and call it a day. Why would they want to give up all their profits? Because they think that's what it takes to get an audience. I guess. I know what Donald's done. Donald's jumped around and changed his position numerous times in recent weeks, in recent days. I don't think he knows what he's saying. I think he only knows that his positions have become monumentally unpopular. That's where he is. So what's he going to do about it? Nothing. He's going to go down with the ship. Remember this. Donald won by a sliver of votes. One election. One. I listened to my brothers telling me over and over again, he might win. Remember Hillary. But no, he's not going to win. He's not going to win anything. Forget Hillary. Hillary's a wonderful person. But he got the best of her and she got whipped by a tiny sliver of votes in a couple of states. I feel so sorry for her. And for us, she would have been a great president for us, and she really earned that position. But she lost. But after that, no one has lost. Donald loses all the time. It's only Donald losing. Now, what you should worry about is not Donald Trump and whether he's going to win an election. You should worry about where you're going to get a great meal. And I'm telling you, you can get one at Wendy's. 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road, right here in Chesterfield Valley. And the food is great. And I'm going to go through it again because you never know. You might listen and you'll go, I'm getting hungry. And so then you go out and get those wings or some smoked meats or pizza or hamburgers, cheeseburgers. I love patty melts. I really love the baby back ribs and the onion rings. They have great drinks. I like the iced tea. There's probably things for all of the rest of you too, but I love the iced tea. And look, Wendy's is just a great place to go. Nice people. Ben and his wife have turned this place into something where everybody can enjoy it. And I'll tell you, I get so many people now coming up to me and saying, I think I might go to Wendy's. I had one guy who came up to me the other day and says, I think I'll go to Wentz. Well, it's not Wentz, it's Wendy's, but that's okay. 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road. And believe me, you'll love the food. And you can also go to Defiance, Missouri, and get the same great food there at $29.99 South Highway 94. That's Wendy's. Now, if you want jewelry, I promise you, they've got cases and cases and cases of jewelry at Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton. It's in St. Louis. Al is the owner, along with his son, AJ. They're really terrific. They design jewelry. They buy and sell jewelry and coins. They'll let you look at all their great inventory in the cases. It's all just terrific. Great place to shop. So get yourself to 4506 Hampton. Check out the jewelry. And in the end, you may have to bring your watch around and they'll fix that too. My 45-year-old gold Seiko. They'll even fix that at Jewels on Hampton. And I'll tell you this, they'll do a great job of it. And you could then wear that watch like me for another 45 years. That should get me to, let's see, 2070. Oh, I'll only be 120 then. Okay, now, the next place to go is the St. Louis Suit Company, and that's at Forsyth and Central in Clayton. They have been there for 30 years. This is their 30th year. And the clothes, outstanding. I really do love the suits. I really do love the suits. I do. I love a nice suit. I've been wearing suits for years, and I absolutely love the suits that I buy at the St. Louis Suit Company for great prices. Now, every morning lately, when I walk outside with my little puppy, Baxter, I think about the St. Louis Suit Company and their overcoats. I've tried to sell those overcoats, and I know I've sold some, but I'm just telling you that it's about time to get one. And for a minute, the price is going to do nothing but go up until it starts going down again when it gets past the prime time. But any way you cut it, the prices are still very reasonable for those overcoats. Not as reasonable as those ties, that's for sure. I mean, you're not going to match a $5 tie. Beautiful designs, great ties, silk. It is the St. Louis Suit Company in Clayton. You'll love their clothes. And if you're getting married, the wedding attire is perfection. They know what they're doing. They are experts in weddings. So go to the corner of Central and Forsyth in Clayton. It's the St. Louis Suit Company. Now, I'll tell you one thing they don't sell there. They don't sell the weave. The weave. This guy's got a screw loose beyond what anybody's ever seen. Yeah, he says he tells different stories and he interrupts them with other things like, the sharks, Hannibal Lecter, all that. Very impressive. But none of it is as impressive as this idea of Donald's, and that is the January 6th Gala for Insurrectionists. Honestly. I mean, when you think that he can't do any worse, when you think he's gone to an all-time low, boom, he does better. And that's what he was doing last week. He had it all planned out. And this was the January 6th Gala for Insurrectionists. I guess it was at the golf club, Mar-a-Lago. And he was going to raise money for his insurrectionist friends. Now, you know that anytime Donald's raising some money, there's always a cut for him. So I suppose that's why he was sort of excited about the whole idea. But anybody that wants to put on a gala for insurrectionists to raise money for people who have been convicted of every kind of felony that you can imagine, and many, before they were even convicted, simply pled guilty because they didn't even want to mess with it. I know one guy walked out of there and put his hand up and goes, yeah, Donald Trump, before he went off to spend 20 years in prison. Now, I know he thinks that Donald is going to get him out of there, but it's just a crazy dream. We went through it for 4 years. There was bleach and there was, the horse tranquilizer and all this other silliness that Donald threw out there. I say silliness. It would be silly if it weren't killing people, and it did. It killed people. I mean, if it weren't just injecting something, then at the very least, it was preventing people from going to get the therapies and the protection that they really needed. That's Donald Trump with his weave. But Donald's got a problem that won't end. And that problem is women. The numbers for women are expanding all the time. Women don't want to bleed out in restrooms and out on the street in front of some clinic somewhere. They just don't want to. They've had it. They want their doctors to take care of them. But the doctors are afraid because the doctors are afraid they're going to be accused of performing an abortion when they're not. And, you know, a woman who is 20 weeks pregnant and the water breaks, believe me, that woman needs professional health care. What does Donald offer? Donald offers crazy conversations and galas for insurrectionists. That's what he's got to offer. He can't get the people to even come out to his meetings anymore. Not like Kamala. Kamala has 15, 20,000 people who show up. And there's a lady, and I can't even remember her entire name, but she's running for Senate in Florida against Rick Scott. Nice lady. Listened to her this morning on MSNBC. And boy, she tells this story so perfectly. And you know, in Florida, there's a big vote coming. And this big vote is very likely to move everything from the women's column to support for Donald Trump. I'm sorry, lost my mind. For Joe Biden. I mean, even more. For Kamala, give me a break. Yeah, I got to deal with some other things here. Go get my weave fixed. But at any rate, yeah, I mean, this is a serious problem. And by the way, speaking of serious problems, you know, Joe Biden sounded great this weekend. He really did. I don't think he had any mistakes. I didn't notice any. But as you just saw, I can make a mistake. Anybody can. I hear the mistakes all day long. I hear people calling people by other names. I hear people using language that's not correct. I mean, I hear it all the time on the air, on MSNBC, on radio shows, on baseball programs, everywhere. It's just, you know, you talk enough, eventually you're going to transpose something. And what you do is you just say, oh, I messed that up, dumb. But at any rate, you know, here we are, 6 days away from a debate, which I can tell you right now, poor Donald, he was so excited about how Joe Biden buried himself a little over a month ago. And now he's on his way to doing exactly the same thing to himself. You really got to be careful with karma. It can come back and bite you hard. And Donald doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't have a policy position on anything except for lowering taxes for corporations. He wants to do that even further. But that's never going to happen. And what is going to happen is we're going to see tax increases, both for corporations and for wealthy individuals. We're going to see really smart economic policies. They won't fix the stock market's problem because that can only be fixed by a downturn in the stock market. That'll fix the problem. And then we move on from there. That's markets. Capitalism is really good. Great way to make a lot of money. Ask George Soros. He's made billions trading commodities with his partner, Jim Rogers. They're great. Jim Rogers is a conservative. George Soros is a liberal. And between the two of them, they make money. And that's a good thing in America. It's something you should aim for. There's no doubt about it. Everybody should want to make some money. But At the same time, there are other people out here who are struggling. And that's the point of our system, is that we provide a place for you to compete, and we also provide support for people who need help. And I really suggest, if you want details on this, there's a great book. There's so many great books, really, really good books. But, you know, one of the really good ones is The Road to Serfdom. It's really outstanding. It is a conservative book that talks about the dangers of socialism, the dangers of authoritarianism, the dangers of any group getting too much power and trying to control the lives of everybody. It's a problem. We shouldn't be doing that. But there's another side to it. Because one of the arguments is, in this book, it's very short. You should get it and read it. You'll love it. And he says, people who are in trouble, serious trouble, should get help from the government. There's nothing wrong with that. But the conservatives never bring that one up. They never do at all. They think that anything that helps a person weakens America. It's foolishness. And, you know, one of my favorite policies along these lines comes from something as simple as the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Company Corporation. And here's the deal. If you put your money in the bank and the bank goes out of business, the government pays you. That's cool. That's really great. You don't have to lose all your money. It's not 1932. You can go to the bank and you'll be fine. You are protected. But what I always ask conservatives is, why are they willing to take that? You know, they hate any government program that helps people. And so all I want to know is, why are they willing to take their money if their bank account goes south? Why don't they just give it up? Nothing wrong. It's a great idea. Just let it go south. Pass it on to somebody else. Let other people get your money. But see, no, you know this is so foolish, because everybody wants their FDIC money if the bank goes out of business. They all want it. You know that. Why? Why are they willing to take that help, but you can't give tax credits for childcare? You can't give money to poor mothers who live in a home without, say, a father and maybe have 3 or 4 kids. All kinds of reasons that can happen without there being some moral downside to this. It's not like somebody's bad. Things happen. Women without children are not cat ladies. Some don't have children. Some, these days, can't have children because after a miscarriage, they can't get the medical care that's required to protect their bodies. 6 days, everybody. 6 days. But for now, it is Wednesday. Wendy's, Jules on Hampton, the St. Louis Suit Company. This is Showdown. I'm Mark Kaysen. Good night.